I'm deloading. Hence why I'm back in the bronze gym. For reference, it's a poor version of Gold's Gym. It's a joke, haha. Hey, before we talk about diet breaks, I've been working on my shots, my skill shots. There's a hoop there. Anyway, back to diet breaks. I think when people hear the word diet break, they automatically assume it's going to be... They automatically think it's going to be a cheat meal. And them two things are completely different. See, a cheat meal or a cheat day is going to be a period of actively overeating without a care in the world for tracking or a care in the world for food composition in general, i.e. zero protein, all the junk food in the world. So that would be what I would class as a cheat meal all day. Whereas a diet break would be a week or 2 or 3 days eating at or above maintenance for a psychological break away from dieting. You see why it's kind of called a diet break. When people assume diet break and cheat meal, the name is quite similar. However, when you kind of break it down, you would understand why it's maybe called a diet break. And I think the assumption is, when someone says, you should have a diet break, I think the assumption is, wow, I get to eat all of these foods. For the most part, if you're dieting, it's probably like an extra packet of rice. It sounds fancy, but not so. I think if you keep to similar foods, I think that you will benefit from diet breaks a lot. I think if you think that eating 500 calories worth of like chocolate, you probably won't reap the benefits from a diet break as much. You're not going to be as full, and that's kind of the purpose of diet breaks. And that's not to say that eating chocolate is inherently bad. I eat chocolate within my diet now. That's just saying with them extra calories, could we be fuller? Chocolate isn't satiating, right? So if you have all of them calories via chocolate, you're not going to be as full. I'd much rather have something that's very satiating, like rice or potatoes. So we've got how we diet break, but we don't necessarily know why we diet break. We diet break for a psychological break away from dieting. There is such beauty in analysing the psychology behind kind of dieting in general. And I think people just think when it comes to a fat loss phase, it's just like calories in versus calories out and you'll lose weight. You will, but it comes to a point where you have to analyse your psychology and analyse what's going on. If we're kind of pushing on and kind of redlining a car 100% of the time, it's probably going to break down. So we just take kind of a step back, we kind of have a service, and then we push on. I like to analogize it like we're kind of, it's almost, you've heard of, you take a step back and then you kind of take 2 steps forward. This is almost like kind of staying still for a little bit and then having like 4 or 5 steps forward, because you're not really stepping back because you're at maintenance. By definition, you shouldn't actually gain any body fat. So we have the whys, we have the hows, but we don't have the whens. So guess what we're doing now? The whens. When do we use a diet break and when do we utilize 2-day diet breaks and a week diet break? Now, we usually plug and play diet breaks within a deload. Food is our best friend. Food is kind of a recovery tool, it's our performance tool, etc. So when we are kind of going throughout a training block, if we want to dissipate fatigue at the end of the training block in a deload, food would do that. Increased food would do that. So in a fat loss phase, increasing it to maintenance, you would dissipate more fatigue than if you were kind of in a deficit. And also if you're in a deficit and not training that hard, which you're not going to be in a deload or shouldn't be, we could sacrifice muscle loss. Now, when do we utilize the 2-day or 2 or 3 day diet break and a week? 2 or 3 diet break or 2 to 3 day diet break is going to be utilized at the start of a fat loss phase or a start of prep, maybe like the first mesocycle in or second mesocycle in, just because diet fatigue isn't that high, so we can just get away with psychologically. You don't really necessarily need a diet break, but it might be beneficial, right? So that's what I'm doing right now. I am mesocycle 1, so 1 mesocycle into my fat loss phase. I'm around like 9 kilograms or 8 or 9 kilograms down, but I feel fine. There's not really any kind of dieting fatigue kind of going on. My appetite's fine. I'm not really lethargic yet, etc. So that's all good. So I can get away with having the 2 or 3 day diet break, no problem at all. Now, when would I say let's go for a week? When diet fatigue is very, very high, and you need a psychological break. You actually need a psychological break. See, the 2 to 3 day, you don't need it, but you can take it. The week, you kind of need the psychological break away from dieting. And yes, diet fatigue is very, very high, and you're lean. So we're trying to kind of retain lean body mass as well as kind of having the psychological break. So there would be kind of the 2 options there, and that's when I would utilize diet breaks, and then we're given kind of when we utilise 2 to 3 day diet breaks and a week. We can also add to this very nuanced chat, and we know when it's applicable, how to use it, etc. But there are some people who just cannot do diet breaks psychologically. They can't do a diet break. I found it very tough at the start. Maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I found it very hard to kind of actively try and eat at maintenance and not be in a deficit. So I understand it will be a little bit hard. Again, the more times you do things, the better it's going to be. But there are going to be times where you may find it very, very hard to get back onto your calories, which is why I normally say kind of stick to the foods that you have been having before, just have more of it. Don't then assume like a diet break, I said earlier in the vlog basically, that don't fill them calories with like chocolate, etc. Because if you fill it with like chocolates and donuts, etc., then when you get back to your kind of calories, you're not going to be psychologically quote unquote fixed, because you're still hungry, etc. And you're going to want to eat like that in future. It's going to be very hard to get back to your calories because 2 or 3 days ago you were eating all of these different foods. So what I would recommend, it's going to be hard at the start. The more times you do something, the better it's going to be, and the easier it's going to be. The easier it's going to be to get back to your calories. But stick to your calories. Stick to your food choices that you've been having. Just have more of it, and that's it. So that, young sirs and siresses, is what I'm doing today and for the next 2 days. It's Friday today, so this will last until Sunday, and then we get back to our calories as of Monday. Today I woke up at a new low weigh-in of 87.5, which I'm not sure how much that is down. I'll put it here. But yeah, the diet is going very, very well. I need you. And here is, instead of having 1 rice, we're going to have 2 rices. See, it's nothing major. It is nothing major. To put into perspective, yesterday's calories were 230 grams of protein, 60 fat, and 330 grams of carbohydrates. Today's macronutrients are 230 grams of protein, 60 fat, and 410 grams of carbs. So when I'm saying it's enough for an extra packet of rice, it's actually exactly a packet of rice. It's nothing fancy. N-Dog.
Yeah.
Put down the flowers. What do you think of the diet so far? How was it? How's it been?
It's been okay, but today is takeaway day, so that's really good.
And what do you think a diet break is, first and foremost? Because this vlog is going to be about diet breaks. So what do you think a diet break is?
Takeaway.